in one way, but at the same time they definitely didn't aspire to what they wanted, what they were, because they were almost art in the sense of they just did it and they didn't give a damn about what it was and who came and who listened. It was like, this is it, and if you don't like it, well then just out the door, I don't care. Whereas the bands I worked with were into like image and hair and stuff. Donnelly always wore a black suit, a white shirt, and you see him on the number 2 bus going down to Blackrock. He was still like sort of enigma compared to, as I say, the guys I used to work with who wanted to be pop stars. This Donnelly just was, and the 5 Get Onto the Sea just were, and there was no question of why do you do this and who are you and what does the name mean and stuff. It just was plainly obvious that if you asked the question you weren't going to get any answer other than fuck off!
It was just an extremely warm day, like myself and the girlfriend at the time, and there was another girl there as well, and 4 of us just went into the park. You know, had a couple of bottles of flags to the cider, but nothing too, you know, some people would just believe that Donnelly was language going into the water, but no fear of that. Just a couple of, you know, nicely, like. It was just so warm, like, that Donnelly, he was made for swimming, like, he used to always go to the swimming pool and he just went into the water, like Serpentine in London, and swam halfway out, but it's non-designated swimming area, so one of the lifeguard type persons came over and told him to get out. Danny went under to go come out the other side, like, to carry on, and he just, whatever happened below, whatever he got caught on, some sort of reed or something like that, and that was it, like. Just like not seeing him coming out, so I first of all, people on before me like started shouting, screaming. So I ran over, then just rang the ambulance and the whole lot, the emergency services, like, and that was it. Like, went found the following day. Like, we went home and we started ringing a few, you know, because it was kind of a big circle of friends. We all came together in the squad, still in the squad. And it was just moments of laughing and crying at the same time with us all. We got a lot of cans, you know, as usual, again, like drink, laughing and crying. We knew it was all over. But one of the most horrible thing I ever had to do was to ring his mother. Like, I just fucking never again. Like, he just never wanted to do anything like that again. Back to Cork, practically immediately. Came back from the funeral. And that was it. That was finished with London then. Finished with the music business, finished with everything. So that was the end of it.
I mean, you know, this is sad in a genuine way, because I can say with my hand on my heart that I wouldn't have ended up doing music if I hadn't met Donnelly, particularly, at all. And if I hadn't done music, I would have ended up as a malcontented, alcoholic civil servant working at a food factory somewhere in County Offaly, like in the black bogs with the permanent fog hanging over them. So, I mean, I don't say this lightly.
The Cork that we are generally given, the version of Cork that we have, you know, in terms of like the banks of my own lovely Lee and that sort of fellas singing song beside the blazing fire with the baby grand tinkling in the background. That version of Cork, which is so at odds with what's actually a really funny and vibrant and lively thing as well. There's a very bourgeois public image of Cork, which is sold to the world, very, very middle class. The middle class sensibility in Cork is extremely strong, and it needs something almost as mad as what people like Donnelly were on about as an antidote to it, I think. That's just a bog standard theory of mine. unquestionably, there is some. There was the stuff that they did was inextricable from where they were coming from, and that was again what was very good about them, because, like, I think any good music, it's symptomatic of where it comes from. It doesn't just arrive out of a vacuum. To coin the phrase like official Cork, to this day probably doesn't even know of the existence of Inver I'd say it's still Dixieland jazz down the yacht club on Sunday morning, and Blazers. That's Cork to them, But it's important to sort of recall that there's another side to it as well, an underbelly or whatever. Except I would regard the Dixieland jazz on Sunday morning as the underbelly, the seamy underbelly.
All the best artists are self-destructive anyway. To get the most out of your art, sometimes you have to go to the edge and be destructive at the same time. And bands like Five Go Down to the Sea, were self-destructive. Donnelly was a very self-destructive character anyway. I mean, they weren't motivated by stardom. They were motivated by making what they wanted to make musically, and they didn't give a shit about anybody else and what anybody else thought. So, and that's the kind of music that usually stands the test of time. I mean, if you please other people and don't please yourself, and you reflect on it afterwards, it comes across the music. It'll always come across in the music.
Got a good reason for taking the easy way out. I said I've got a good reason for taking the easy way out now. It was a day one-way drive.
But it didn't last very long, like. Well, unfortunately, Donnelly it ended that. But there was lots of plans of future things with Satanta. I think actually Donnelly's plan was to do Bohemian Rhapsody. To be honest with you, like the day he died, walking through the park in Hyde Park, and he was kind of putting these bits together, for Bohemian Rhapsody. Like, that might have turned out pretty mad, alright.
The Dixies mean something to a certain generation, and Roy Gallagher means something to another generation, but not to mine. And even the Franks and the Sultans and Five Go Down to the Sea, they mean nothing to a younger generation now. But we should all know where we come from. If we don't know where we're coming from, where are we going?
The fact that this guy came down from Belfast and, had to sort of assimilate into this kind of very odd little... Because Cork was such an odd place in those days, it really was. It was like this kind of crazy little sort of... The crazy little city over the hill. Over the hill is this mad little place, They do strange things down there, and strange music and strange everything. And I think obviously coming from Belfast, coming from basically the thick of, like the sort of 70s troubles, to this crazy little place must have been odd. But one of the things I've always struck by is the fact that nobody really, apart from the privileged people who actually got to see them live, got to hear their records, there's so much music that's happened since then that it's purported to be sort of exploratory and inventive, and didn't go anywhere near the kind of length that the Nun Attax and Five Go Down to the Sea actually achieved. And you actually try to sort of talk about this and reiterate this to people in this country. It's just, it's very hard to articulate. It's very hard to get hold of the records. It's very hard to describe what they did.
This documentary was produced by Paul McDermott with assistance from Ciaran Hurley and Connor O'Toole. It was originally broadcast on Cork Campus Radio. Special thanks to the contributors to this documentary: Liam Heffernan, Conal Creedon, Ricky Deneen, Cathal Coughlin, Sean O'Hagan, Gerdy Alera, Finney Corcoran, Jim O'Mahony, Mick Lynch, Murthy McCarthy, Stan O'Rocht, Shane Fitzsimons, John Robb, Rory Cobb and Declan Lynch.